As a child that was very injured, very wounded, physically, emotionally, and verbally. I was a very wounded child.
The magnitude and the scope of child sexual abuse and exploitation is actually expanding. In fact, the numbers are so great that leading law enforcement agencies around the world, including Interpol, represented by Mick today, have said we cannot prosecute our way out of this problem.
1995, sticking with that same year, Interpol, as we may hear from Mick later on, knew of the existence of only 5,000 unique images of child pornography, child abuse images. 2010-12, and this was just, I did the research so I can speak to these figures, we estimated that in the UK alone, police, CEOP, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Unit, estimated that there were over 50,000 different individuals within the United Kingdom space who were involved in downloading or exchanging child abuse images.
And what we know is that the scale and extent of violence against children is a really compelling case for leaders of faith communities to take action. Almost 5 billion people, roughly 5 billion around the world, belong to religious communities, and their role and potential for impact is huge. With their extraordinary moral authority, and many of you sitting in this room, religious leaders are able to influence thinking, foster dialogue, and set priorities and standards for members of their community.
You are the leaders. I'm the policeman, right? Morals and ethics and all that, they're outside my department. They're not my zone, okay? If I got a law, I'll enforce it, all right? That's what I do, okay? You people, on the other hand, you're the ones into values, community values, human values, and it's very important that you, as leaders in the space of community and societal values, step up to the plate to assert those against that overwhelming force in this period, which is an information revolution.
And if we're going to tackle issues like abuse against children, religious leadership needs to talk to each other across our religious traditions, honestly, not just showing each other what's good in our traditions, but and in our communities, but what our real problems are, and to work together about that.
This morning we focused in great detail on the exploitation of children, especially on the internet and on social media. This afternoon we are speaking more broadly about violence and responsibility of religious leaders. So I think clearly the connection is that religious leaders must recognize the sexual exploitation of children as a pervasive form of violence in contemporary society and need to become active in this regard. It emphasizes, I think the connection here is an emphasis on what our responsibilities are and working both to clarify, as I said, what our own ideals are and developing strategies, the synergy between the religious world and the so-called secular world on this issue.
We would like to engage in partnerships, but there are problems relating to religious organizations, and there are problems for religious organizations to relate to the secular organizations. First of all, that they label themselves as secular organizations. So already there you have kind of an inbuilt tension. I think that what we need to find now is how do we provide the bridge between not only religious leaders and secular organizations, but religious leaders and their religious communities.
De communauté et de communautarisme au point de s'égarer. Aujourd'hui, le problème, il est au niveau de l'humanité. Ce n'est pas une communauté qui est touchée, c'est l'humanité tout entière. Donc, ne faut-il pas repenser autrement le sens du religieux, de la communauté religieuse, sur un autre plan, c'est-à-dire de voir que l'humanité est un corps dont chaque communauté individuelle, qu'elle soit catholique, protestante, musulmane, bouddhiste, hindouiste, n'est qu'un membre, le membre d'un même corps.
Mais je suis venu, peut-être, nous mettre en éveil contre les faces d'ombre de nos valeurs. Les valeurs sont belles, mais attention, elles ont toutes des faces d'ombre. La justice est très bon, mais elle peut être cruelle. La charité, c'est merveilleux, mais elle peut être perverse, dans la mesure où je te demande de pardonner, comme vous l'avez dit si joliment, et quand je te demande de pardonner avant que justice soit faite, alors le criminel peut continuer à courir et à sévir. Donc on utilise une valeur, et à cause de cette valeur, on alimente la perversion. Donc il ne s'agit pas, bien entendu, de dire qu'il ne faut pas pardonner. Il faut lui donner sa place juste au pardon. Il ne s'agit pas de dire qu'il ne faut pas qu'il y ait de la charité, mais donner sa place juste à la charité.
To talk about the tension that exists when good data begins to suggest that practices that were cultural and perhaps folded into religious self-understandings don't line up. And what do we do with ourselves as religious persons when we find ourselves in that situation? Best that we face that very squarely. Best that we be the ones to exercise faithful creativity to deal with that sort of topic. We need a bit of a methodical way of going about this if we're really going to harness the exquisite assets of the religious communities to tackle the issues of violence against children.
I have to tell you how many of my colleagues fear making that phone call. When I see a child in distress who's clearly been abused and we meet as a staff and somebody goes, well, I don't think we should get involved in this one. I'm like, we live in New Jersey. We're mandated reporters. Everyone over the age of 18. We have to make the report. We have to stand up for this child because if no one does, that child will be left to suffer. And if it's not my job, whose job is it?
Issues of the protection of children from violence is a justice issue that the World Council of Churches is concerned about. And I stand in solidarity with 1 in 3 women worldwide who face violence in their lives, in protest against the systems and societies that encourage violence in any form, in mourning for men, women, and children who are harmed and killed in sexual violence, for awareness and knowledge about the challenges of sexual and gender-based violence, in hope that a different reality is possible. And I'm here to make a contribution to that.
We've said it before, we're ready to collaborate. And in my conclusion, I must say over the years we've collaborated well with the religious communities. We hope that we could come together in a partnership. Your extraordinary moral authority and leadership is what we are looking forward to, right, in a partnership.
Faith-based organizations have become key actors in influencing the global agenda, like the forthcoming Sustainable Development Goals. Today, we can say that thanks to the advocacy of many faith-based and other organizations, violence against children features quite prominently in the Sustainable Development Goals that world leaders will be adopting next month in New York. We at Arigatou International and ECPAT International are deeply committed to a strong partnership for this noble cause, so that long before the deadline of 2030 for the Sustainable Development Goals, we can all say proudly that we not only rang the alarm bell about this new epidemic of violence against children, but also helped to stem and reverse the tide of this violence that is continuing.
कालो रातैमा जीवन संगीत सुनौ म